All right, we're gonna be back in the rock room today, and we're new boot goofing. Got some new boots and some old boots there. It's that time of year when you really don't want your feet wet or cold. But anyway, we're gonna start the batch that I've been talking about for a while, and that's the halfway polished rocks up to about 1,000 grit on my drill press pads, and we're going to throw them into stage 5 and see what happens. See if the results are any different than they are if I go all the way up to 8 or a 10,000 grit pad, because to me they really don't look all that different. So we're going to test that out this week and see how it works. We've got some interesting chunks here. There are a lot of I guess kind of slabs, more flat on both sides, and I'm a little worried that they're going to want to stick together, and I've said that many times before, but I think if we get enough tumbling media in there, hopefully they'll cooperate with one another and tumble each other evenly. But we'll take a look at a few of these. I have drill press polished fully all the way through, and also tumbler polished for 5 weeks a chunk out of this rock, so this will be interesting to see how it ends up. I have some kind of polish on this rock. I can't remember which, if it was tumbler or drill press. This one we did try to do the last time we did a video like this, and there was a lot of scratches left in it, so I actually went back and re-drill press polished this side. Same thing with this rock. I did a really bad job. I was just starting out when I polished this rock, and so I went back over it and polished it again up to 1,000 grit. A couple of little rocks here. This one I poked a little hole in, and this one too. This one's got a really neat pattern on it. Really cool little fortifications in there. So we'll see how they turn out. I think I did polish another chunk of this stuff. I'll have to see if I can find it and see how it turned out. Got some petrified wood up here. Kind of this half round disc. I don't know how well this stuff will do, or if we're even going to have room for it in the barrels, but we'll see. Some other kind of jasper-y looking stuff here, here, and here. This one's really cool. It's got a really nice chalcedony band in there. You see the light passing through. That's pretty cool. Another really neat looking fortification agate, and I actually did repolish this one on the drill press because I did a really terrible job with it, unfortunately, and those patterns are just too cool to not showcase. And that looks really neat. It's kind of a Christmas tree shape. A couple smaller ones of just some really neat looking stuff. This one's got cool layers in it. And this one here had some really big saw gouges on both sides. It's got a lot of fractures in it too, so I'm hoping it'll stay together just for 1 week. But and we'll definitely highlight some more of these after they're done. Actually, all of them. We'll just take a look at all of them, because why not? We'll get these tossed in their barrels with some media and some grit and get them in stage 5 for a week. And we'll use the power of editing, and we'll be right back to see what they look like. All right, we've got about 3.3 pounds in each barrel of, well, all total weight, barrels, rocks, grit, water, and all that stuff. So hopefully they'll want to cooperate with each other. I've been with, especially with these ones that have a lot of slabs in them, I've been doing all pop in here once or twice today and just shake the barrels up a lot, just to make sure that everything's moving together and isn't getting stuck, or the grit's not pooling in the bottom or whatever. So like I said, we'll be back in just a second and check them out. We're back after a week, and I've got to say, I am really impressed with how some of these rocks look. Now, there are a few scratch marks that are still on some of these. You can kind of see in the light, there's quite a few of those pad marks on this rock here, which is a really big bummer. And this one was actually kind of hard to polish with the pads because I didn't do a very good job cutting it with the saw, but man, the rest of this rock just took an absolute beautiful shine. And if it wasn't for those pad marks in there, it would just look absolutely awesome. I mean, the colors still definitely pop through really nicely, especially on this side. It looks really cool. A lot of greens and reds in there. Really interesting rock. And it's too bad that it's got all these big fractures in it, or else I might want to do something else with it. But this rock was probably a little too big for me to cut with my little 7-inch blade, hence the large amount of gouges in it. But I was able to polish them with the polishing pads pretty well. I did not think that so many of those scratch marks were going to show up. So that's unfortunate, but I am really impressed by just the absolute shine on this rock. It really did catch a nice polish. This one here, pretty much what we were expecting. It's got some scratch marks that are pretty visible in it too if you get it in the right light, but just the way that the surface and the colors on this rock they're a lot harder to see. Here's a chunk of this stuff that I actually tumble polished all the way through. As you can see, the edges are definitely more smooth. But to be honest, I really don't see a whole lot of difference. And man, the scratch marks, interesting. But it's really very comparable polish wise, which makes me happy. It's definitely faster than waiting 5 weeks to get a rock done. So I'm going to call this one a win for this rock. Got another nice chunk of petrified wood here. It did not catch too much of a polish. I think this one may have gotten stuck. As you can see, this side polished pretty nicely. I did polish some of the edges on it with the pads, and they turned out decently well. It's definitely not what I would want as a result, but again, I've said it a million times, this petrified wood acts really strangely. So sometimes it looks really nice and other times it doesn't, but it definitely does catch quite a bit of light, so that's good. But not quite as much of a polish as we were hoping for. Probably could have polished this backside with those pads a little more, but interesting. This rock here actually turned out really nicely. Not very many pad marks. Again, that kind of like cork looking texture would be able to hide a lot of it, but a lot of really cool colors. Lots of blues, different shades of brown, some white in there. Really neat looking rock, and it turned out really nicely. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I thought I'd polished another chunk of this stuff, but I don't think so. I think it's still in my bin of stuff that I need to figure out what to do with. But there was a big saw gouge right here where my thumb's at, and I was able to get it pretty well polished with the drill press pads, and it all took a really nice polish in the stage 5 grit too. So even here on the edges, I was able to polish some of these straighter bits pretty well with those pads. This side not so much, it's a little more raggedy, but even still some of those little pockets did catch a pretty nice polish on them. Wherever the other chunk of this rock is, I'll have to tumble polish that and see what happens. This one looks really, really good. A nice chunk of red jasper here, got a nice even polish all the way around, but again, it's got a lot of those pad marks in it. So maybe the pads themselves were just dirty or something, because this is pretty bad. I'm surprised at how bad off some of these are, but it catches the light really nice. This chunk of stuff here, there are some scratch marks in it, but they're a lot smaller, and again, just the material, it's harder to see those. The edge caught a really nice polish, especially on this side. And same deal with this side. You can see more noticeable scratch marks down there at the bottom. Just barely can see those, but otherwise looking really good. Here's another neat chunk that I cut on two sides, this side here and this big flat side here. And I did polish as much as I could on this back side with the drill press pads, and it really caught an awesome shine. I think I actually had to go back and polish some more of this, because I polished a little bit with the pads and I noticed it worked really well, so I went back and did a bunch more before we threw it in stage 5. And those patterns don't go all the way through, which is kind of interesting. They sort of just stop right in there. But it looks really good. Not as many scratch marks on this one. Here's another chunk of some jasper, and again more scratch marks, but really caught a nice shine, even all the way around on those edges here too. And this one's really cool. You got all those really neat reds and yellows and browns and stuff in there. This is a really neat looking rock. I might shape this one into something else. It looks really, really cool. Here's a couple of smaller agates. This one's got really cool patterns on it. You can kind of see there. And I did drill a little hole there at the top. I was kind of thinking about turning this one maybe into a necklace. The stage 5 did round down the edges pretty well, but it does have some pretty noticeable scratch marks still on it, unfortunately. Yeah, you can kind of see those fortification lines in there showing through. But this one I do think is really, really cool. Here's another one that we cut a little hole in with just a little rotary tool. But this one looks really, really neat. This was actually a rock I got from a contractor doing some work at our house. And I polished some rocks for him, and he traded me a chunk of this stuff, and then he let me cut a chunk off of one of his agates. So that was pretty cool. There are still some scratch marks on it, but the edges got really rounded out nicely. And there was a pretty solid crust on these edges that has seemed to have gone away. So this might be another one that we fiddle around with a little bit more. But it looks really, really cool with all that crystal in the middle there. I'm glad this one turned out really well too, because I got a few chunks off of this rock, and there was another one that was about the same thickness, and it I guess I didn't have a good enough grip on it, and it shot off of one of the polishing pads and shattered on the ground. So, but yeah, this one looks really, really cool. I'm super happy about it. There's a couple more agates. Now these two, I went back and repolished this face on this rock. It's got two flat faces on it. This one wasn't too terribly bad, but this side I just did a really, really bad job on. And the same with this one. I mean, you can see all that fortification banding in there, and I really just did a super crappy hack job on it. Kind of that geode pocket in the middle. And so I went back through and sanded it again. It actually does look significantly better than it did. And even some spots on this backside caught a good shine. We'll put this in the needs a good borax wash pile. But yeah, those lines are really, really looking cool. It looks really nice in the light. You can kind of see those lines popping through just a little bit. But a really, really cool rock. This one here, there are still a few scratch marks, but again, it's a lot better than it was when it started out. I did round the edges down some more, and I also went back and tried to catch as many of the edges with the sanding pads as I could. This rock is a little thick, and I would think about maybe cutting it in half. But we'll see about that. This is really interesting. This little pocket right in here has its own little separate chunk of chalcedony that got stuck in there and formed, totally separate than the rest of the rock. That's kind of what this sliver is right here too. Really, really interesting. Like I said, this side wasn't too bad. Probably put it through a toothbrush scrub or a borax wash, and I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Pretty cool in the light, and it's strange that even though that is chalcedony, the light just doesn't get through that barrier where that kind of sliver is, and doesn't shine all the way through. But really, really nice looking rock. There's a nice little chunk of jasper with a cool little agate vein running through the center of it. And again, it's got a lot of those scratch marks from those pads on there. And this one, because of all the fracturing, I was really worried that it was going to bust apart. And even some chalcedony on the edge too. But for the most part, it took a really, really, really nice shine. That's cool. You can see just a little bit of that light bleeding through the middle there. That's really cool. Really happy with this little guy. Another chunk here. Not as many scratch marks. There are a few, but they're really, really small. I did hit the edges of this one as best I could. But a little crystal sparkling on there too. It turned out looking really well. I'm happy with the results so far. And you can see with it glows just a little bit too. That's really cool. Really neat. Here's another little agate with some really neat looking crystal formation in the middle. And some fortification lines around the outside of the crystal. I don't know how well you can see that. This one turned out really well. I did trim just a shade off of this backside there, and you can even see those lines right in there too. This is a really cool looking rock, and it did catch a pretty nice polish on this backside too, which is good. Still some scratch marks, but definitely looking a lot better than it did. Yeah, it looks really nice up there in the light. See that crystal and those fortification lines up above it? Yeah, it looks really, really cool. It's a neat little rock too. Here's a nice little chunk of petrified wood. And it looks okay. It's got an even polish all the way around, so even on this non-cut side, I did slice, I think I did slice just a little bit off of that end there. This side I did not cut, and obviously this big flat side I did. Well, big, I guess it's it's a little rock, but it's big compared to the other surfaces, I guess. But again, with this petrified wood, a really neat pattern in here too. That's really cool. But this stuff doesn't always polish up real nice, or as nicely as I would like. But it does look really neat. That pattern is cool. It starts on this side, big chunk here, and then kind of bleeds over the edge there. Goes just a little bit back farther over here. Really cool looking little rock. Happy with how it turned out too. Here we got another nice little chunk of agate. Again, there's some scratch marks in it. A little host rock on that side. A little more over here. A big break in there. I'm glad that these pieces didn't chip off. I didn't notice anything in the media when I washed these off. And there's just a teeny little crystal pocket right there in the middle. That's really cool. But again, now that it's closer, you can see all those scratch marks from the pads. And I think I might have a way to get rid of those. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But got this edge here really nice and smooth too, with the drill press pads. And of course the grit did its job. But overall, I'm really happy with the polish on this. It looks really, really good. Here that is, holding it up into the light. And I mean, it's just almost completely see-through. That's really, really cool. Looks really good. We got a little tower here, and this one again, it's got a lot of those drill press marks and scratches in it, but honestly it used to be a lot worse. And this one we actually did do in our last batch of drill press rocks that we put through stage 5, and I went back through and polished all the flat sides on this rock again because it was just so bad looking. And you can barely see some fortification lines up there on that side. Really neat colors in here. There's a saw gouge right here that I was able to get those pads into pretty well. But again, you can really see a lot of those scratches. And more cool patterns and colors on this side just a little bit. And this big break in here is why all that iron got in, which is really neat. And again, we'll get this in a borax wash. But yeah, if it weren't for those scratch marks, yeah, this would be a really, really nice little piece. But it does glow really awesome in the light, of course. That's definitely to be expected. And really stoked on how that worked out. At least the look anyway, not the scratches. And our last one out of this batch is this really cool looking piece. All that crystal in the middle. You've got the iron coloring around about half of the rock, and then the crystal on this side too. One reason I didn't want to tumble polish this all the way through, which I probably already said, because it wears a lot of this crystal down, and it even did just in a week of the stage 5. So, but a really interestingly shaped rock, and there are some scratch marks in it. They're a lot smaller, but overall it turned out really, really nice. I like the way this one looks. Just really cool looking coloring in there. Really, really nice. The red's popping, got the orange, and then that whiter color in the middle where the crystal's at. It looks really, really cool. So overall, I'm really happy with how these turned out, at least polish wise. So it shows me that if you get something up to 1,000 grit or 1,200 or so, and you put it through a stage 5, which mine is 8,000 grit, you're gonna get a really nice polish on your rocks. And if it weren't for those silly little scratch marks, these would be just prime time awesome. Now what I'm thinking is, I've been watching videos on how to make a flat lap with a drill press, and if you can see over here, we've kind of got it started sort of in a trial run stage with that. So I think I'm going to use that, and hopefully that will eliminate some of the bigger scratch marks, and we'll have a better end product. Because like I said, these are gorgeous if it weren't for those stupid scratch marks. But like I said, overall, really pleased with how a lot of these are looking. They're just super duper cool. If you like this type of video, this type of rock content, let me know. Feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up, because why not? And if you want to see what the flat lap rocks might look like in stage 5, we can do that too. But we appreciate everybody for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you on our next video.